everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing DC, The New Frontier. Take a look at these comic covers right here. Now, going into DC, The New Frontier, I had a unique perspective, because, well, I actually watched the direct-to-DVD animated adaptation of this comic, Justice League, The New Frontier, before I actually read the comic itself. Now, dealing with adaptations of books and comics, I usually read the source material first before I deal with the adaptation. However, in this situation, I dealt with the adaptation first before I dealt with the source material. And I have to say, honestly, I enjoyed Justice League The New Frontier. I know a lot of people out there don't really care for it as a direct-to-DVD animated film, but I always thought it was fun. It had a certain charm to it, and it was unique and different from every other DC film and show that has been out there thus far. With my expectations set so high with the movie, and with what everyone has been saying about this comic being good, I was a little worried, because when my expectations are set to a certain degree, whether it be high or low, usually the outcome is always different from what I have. I like to go into comic books with a neutral opinion. If I hear people say this comic sucks or this comic is amazing, it tends to taint my experience with the comic itself. So I really don't go on and watch other people's review of comics unless I actually read the comic itself beforehand and I've already established my opinion. This saves me from actually being tainted by other people's opinions and ruining my own experience with the comic. Now, this is not to say that this happens to everyone. It just mostly happens to me. I don't know why, it's just who I am. So, I had to say I was quite concerned going into DC New Frontier because I had such high expectations because of the movie, and everyone saying this was fantastic. The question is does this live up to the expectations that were set for this, or does it just fail? Well, you're going to have to wait and see. Let's get into the comic itself. Now, DC The New Frontier is an Elseworld story, so it's set in a universe separate from the mainstream continuity. And this set during the 50s and the 40s, dealing with the transition from the Golden Age heroes to the Silver Age heroes. And it mirrors many aspects of Silver Age comics that were in the 50s and the 60s. However, it's done a little bit differently. See, the superhero community at this point is very not connected. It's divided. They are not a team. They're not working together. All of the superheroes, with the exception of Superman and Wonder Woman, are frowned down upon by the general public and by the government, and are seen as vigilantes. See, Wonder Woman and Superman are government agents, so they're okay with everyone else, but as for Batman or the Flash, they're not looked upon in good grace, at least particularly from the government. Some people like the Flash and stuff, but, you know, you get what I'm saying. So, the superhero community is very much divided. And the main story is that there's this big apocalyptic evil that is coming to destroy the Earth. Although this is the main threat and the main enemy of the story, it's not actually the main story itself. The main story here is the DC community, the superhuman community coming together. Superheroes rising up like the Martian Manhunter and the Green Lantern. Superheroes coming out of exile like Flash and Batman. And the formation of the team, the Justice League. So as you can see, this is more of an internal story about the connections between the superheroes and the superheroes themselves, rather than a general threat like a bad guy who wants to take over the world or a apocalyptic mountain that wants to destroy everything. That's the basic story in a nutshell. If I told you any more, it would kind of ruin things and give you a few spoilers, but the main characters in this, for me at least, are Hal Jordan and J'onn J'onzz. You really get to see the transformation of them being normal, everyday people, and normal, everyday aliens, to becoming superheroes. Like, Hal Jordan doesn't become Green Lantern until the very end, and J'onn J'onzz doesn't fully become the Martian Manhunter until around the end. Those guys are pretty much the main characters to me. Other characters such as Superman and Batman and Flash play a role, but it's really those guys that shine the most. What I also thought was cool is they brought in a lot of miscellaneous superheroes that some of you guys may not even know, like the Challengers of the Unknown. That was awesome. When I saw them, I was like, whoa! They're really pulling out all the characters in here. So there's a lot of characters in here from the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, and the Golden Age that all kind of make an appearance, which is nice. Let's get into the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good. Well, as I stated before, there's a lot of obscure characters that show up in this, that are nice to see, like the Challengers of the Unknown. Again, not many people may know about them, but I really think they're cool. They're just a classic, campy superhero team. They're really just fun. And in addition to that, some characters here shine more than others. I love the Trinity, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, but we already know they're fantastic and they're amazing. It's good to see some characters like John Jones and Barry Allen and Hal Jordan really kind of shine in this. Particularly, I like that they made John Jones a very competent character. Not many people like to write him, and not many people like to write him good. There's only a few comics that he actually shines well in here, and in this, he's actually written very competently. I also like the fact that Hal Jordan didn't become the Green Lantern instantly. It was a building process. He had to get over the ordeals that he dealt with during war and killing people and survival, and there's a very nice character arc with him. The art is absolutely fantastic, especially for this comic. Darwyn Cooke has a certain sense of charm and elegance to his drawings that make it look cartoony, but make it look very much for the time, and it really gets a sense of nostalgia, especially if you read the Silver Age and the Bronze Age and the Golden Age of comics. Not so much the Bronze Age, because the Bronze Age was in the 70s to the 80s, but for the Silver Age and the Golden Age, like the 40s to the 60s, this really captures that era of comics and also that era of history itself too. So the art is fantastic, really beautiful. And Darwyn Cooke has done art in a lot of comics I like, particularly his Catwoman art, which he draws Selina beautifully. I love the dynamics between all the superheroes too. They all kind of mesh well together, and they feel like general adaptations of those particular superheroes. They don't go too far outside the norm, but they are also set in a certain era, so they act in a certain way. So I like how everyone was transitioned nicely. Bad. Well, one bad is there's a lot of characters that show up in this that really don't do anything. It's just they're there, and I felt like they spent too much time with these characters that really didn't go anywhere or do anything at all. In addition to that, the final threat wasn't really much of a villain. I mean, like I said before, this is more about the internal stuff that happens between the characters and the community itself. The villain isn't that big of a deal, but we really don't get much of him till the end. And the villain is just a giant island that shoots out pterodactyls and demons. Okay. That's another bad. But those are about the only bads that I have with this. Whether or not you should get it, I would definitely recommend this. I have to say that this either lived up to my expectations or surpassed it a little bit. This didn't wow me as much as I think a lot of people thought it would, but it is still a very fun comic and very enjoyable and one of my favorite Elseworld stories. I'm not a particular fan of Elseworld stories. I think the reason is because I could just be spending my money on the mainstream continuity, and I care more about mainstream comics, you know, the current DC universe, than I do about Elseworlds. I don't know why. It's just, that's who I am. I can't describe the reason why I do that. But this is an Elseworld story that was enjoyable, it was fun, and it's definitely something I would recommend to a comic book enthusiast or just a fan of general old-school classic comics, because it really does a fantastic job of capturing what I personally loved about the Silver and the Golden Age of comics. So when it comes down to it, DC The New Frontier did a great job, and it is a good comic that I do recommend. Be warned, though, that it goes for $19 per trade, so it's going to be like a $40 buy. It's a bit expensive, so buy cautiously. You might want to get some other stuff before you get this, but in the end, you should pick this up. So that said, I'm going to end this review here. This is Andrew saying peace out for now.